There we go, we're live.
Alright.
Thanks for coming out here.
Sure. I'm glad I was finally able to carve out a minute.
Well, it's good that you're a busy man.
Yeah.
It's good that you're
Schedule's
busy.
been busy.
Well, I just wanted to make this like a basic introduce yourself.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
tell me, why do you want to run for sheriff?
Well,
And what's your history?
First of all, my name is Jason Rael, and I'm a lifelong resident here in Cuesta. My family's been, the Rael family's been here for hundreds of years. I like to call myself a fifth generation Taoseño, and a lot of people say, well, why would you, you're not from Taos, you're from Cuesta, how do you call yourself Taoseño? Well, I believe, honestly, that if you're from Taos County, that makes you a Taoseño. And the reason I say that because our communities are small rural communities, and I worked for the sheriff's office for about 18 years total. My last stint was 14 years with them. But I got the opportunity to patrol every nook and cranny of Taos County, all the way from Peñasco to Amalia and Sipapu, all the way to Tres Piedras and to the Colorado border, Ojo Caliente. There's 2,200 square miles, and I'm very intimate with every little community that we patrolled, so I got good knowledge about that.
And it seems, as long as I've been here, it seems that there's an unnecessary division between Taos and Cuesta. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't call it really division. As far as what do you mean by the division? I guess
like there's maybe division's the wrong word. Distinction, like people in Cuesta and people there's a few people in Cuesta who don't really seem to pride themselves on keeping them separate from Taos. There's Taos and then Cuesta.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just kind of like generational things, like people take pride of where they come from, I do as well. So I wouldn't necessarily call them divisions, but like people from Peñasco, it's just like if you look at the high schools and sports and the rivalries that are, I think it kind of stems from some of that as to, well, when Cuesta plays Peñasco, their fans are cheering and our fans are cheering, just like Taos, that type of thing. That's where kind of divisional rivalry comes from. But I would say, at least in my experience, I've always been welcome in Peñasco. I've been welcome in Ojo Caliente. I've been welcome in El Valle. Those are smaller little, it's just like Cuesta and Cerro. People from Cerro say, well, I don't want to be from Cuesta. Or, I'm from Cuesta, I don't want to be from Cerro. But the reality is, we are all one community, the way I see it. Whenever something tragic happens in our community, it's felt as far down south in Peñasco. It's felt in Taos. It's felt in Arroyo Seco, Montes, Arroyo Hondo. I can tell you firsthand from some of these tragedies, communities come together. I don't care where you're from, or if you just got here last week, or you've been here like me my entire life. When something bad happens or some sort of tragic event comes, we all come together and we embrace each other as a community. And that's something that I'm really proud of.
I would argue that's one of the best parts of a small town.
Yeah, no doubt.
Everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest difference between a sheriff's department and a police department?
Well, there's huge differences. It's like night and day. The sheriff's office is in charge of court security, court transport, civil process, and that's statutorily required of the sheriff's office. So that's different than a police department, and they enforce state statute as well. But town usually has ordinances, which is a little different, and so those types of I guess how can you put it? Statutory obligations are unique to the sheriff's office, which a police department generally doesn't do.
What would you say are the parameters with collaborating with the police department? Like what would a police department do? What would a sheriff's department do? What's each of the domains?
Well, it's like the sheriff's office has jurisdiction over the entire county, and there's municipalities within the county. The municipalities that have a police force, they're in charge of policing their municipality, and sheriff can come in and help if they ask or if they need extra resources, stuff like that. So that's the biggest difference. Other than that, the sheriff's got 2,200 square miles to cover for law enforcement duties, So that's the big difference.
You said you were with the sheriff's department for 18 years now, or previously.
Yeah.
18 years previously. What range is that? That was before you were with Marshal.
Yeah, I did 4 years under Charlie Martinez was the sheriff. Then my dad bought a small business and needed some help running that and getting it off the ground. So I left law enforcement then, and then back in 2008 when the financial crisis finally hit us here in New Mexico, the business didn't do so well. I mean, we had to close the doors, and at that point, I went to work for Chevron Mining and got laid off. And so I said, well, it's probably a good idea to go back into law enforcement where I have some job security and benefits and that kind of thing. So I went back under Sheriff Miguel Romero, and then I did 14 years consecutive with the sheriff's office. Then I left because there was an opportunity for me to learn more and advance in my career. 8 of those 14 years at the sheriff's office, I was a patrol sergeant under Jerry Holdriff, and Miguel Romero appointed me to the position of sergeant when he was the sheriff, and then I did the full 8-year term with as a patrol sergeant. We didn't have lieutenants or captains or anything else, so as a sergeant, you took on a lot of administrative duties, and I was fortunate enough to do a lot of training on the administrative side of the house. And so the opportunity came for Red River to advance my career, and I went in as a deputy, and shortly thereafter I was appointed by the mayor to the Marshal position.
Can you tell us a little bit can you explain like some of the nuances between the sheriff's department and the Marshal's office?
Oh yeah, there's a huge difference. Like we don't have to serve the civil process. We don't have to do transports and all that stuff like I explained earlier. Moving into the Marshal's office and sitting at that seat, I've done a lot of training, like I said, for the administrative side of the house. And I thought I was really prepared for it. But I'll tell you what, when you're in that seat, there's a lot of stuff that the trainings you take don't necessarily prepare you for, which I knew was going to be a big step, but it was one I was willing to take. And so while I was at the Marshal's office, I was able to join the New Mexico Police Chiefs Association through so that's all the police chiefs in the state come together, and we usually meet quarterly, and so we can discuss crime trends, different things. I mean, it's police chief from state police chief Albuquerque Police Chief, Farmington Police Chief, Las Cruces Police Chief, all the way down to smaller departments that are two-man departments or small like mine. We all come together and that's where we can collaborate. Like, how's your recruitment going? What's working for you? What's not working? It gives us a chance to come together and see what's different from the northern part of the state to what's working in the southern part of the state, east and west, Gallup. And we all, it's a really good organization. And through that, they did host a new police chief's training, which was about a week long, and was really helpful for me because it prepares you and shows you stuff that your normal administrative duties trainings don't show you. They teach you budget, which you cover budget anyway, but legislative process, stuff like capital outlay, how to go looking for funding, and those type of opportunities that are out there. So that's been great for me.
Would you say law enforcement in Taos County is generally overfunded, underfunded, or just right?
I would say underfunded in general always. Generally, if you're looking at a municipality's budget or even the county's budget, public safety is probably the lion's share of all the other departments that function under that umbrella. And it's kind of hard because the state gives money for retention and recruitment, but when it comes to salary, they can't divert state funding to support salary. And a lot of stuff, that property tax, the GRT, all that income that comes into the county, then that has to get dispersed between all the departments. And so it's hard, especially, I don't know if
state funding can't go towards salaries.
Yeah, like when they give you money for retention and recruitment, because there's some sign-on bonuses that you could offer, and then retention is for officers that senior officers that have been with your agency for a long time. You can give they give you disbursements for them if they meet certain criteria like training, and your agency has to have reported to the state all their training, and you got to be in compliance with the state mandates and all that stuff before you're eligible to even be able to get a hold of some of that funding. But it's I wish that maybe instead of some of those kind of incentives, they could work on salary or maybe better retirement to increase recruitment and retention, those kind of things. I think.
When you say they could work on, you mean the state?
The state funding, yeah.
When I talked to, I recently spoke with Hillgriff about because he's running for judge. I asked him about a big thing that a big detriment that really led to more crime. He mentioned the bail reform. I forget where it was actually, but a few years ago.
I think the voters were hoodwinked on that one because it sounded good. It's like if you couldn't afford bail, there was an inequality there, right? So if you had access or you came from a well-to-do family and you got in trouble, they could bail you out. And me, coming from a poor family or no money at all, I'd have to sit in jail because nobody could post my bail. So there was some inequality there. And I think that's kind of the way they sold it was it's going to bring some equality to that. So the problems, I think, that came about were now we're not holding nobody accountable at all. So it's just a revolving door, I recently visited with some state partners and to see what is driving this, like the crime in New Mexico across the board. We have a huge juvenile crime problem. We have just in our county alone, in every little town, there's fentanyl problem, addiction, domestic violence. Those are usually and violent crime now from adults as well as juveniles. I mean, that's the truth of it. When you see a 300% increase in overdose deaths in your county, I wouldn't even call that a problem. I would call that a crisis, right? And there's
that's
only
the case in Taos County.
yeah, so it's interesting. How are we going to tackle this? I don't think we can arrest our way out of the addiction crisis. I don't think everybody that has an addiction issue or a mental health issue for that matter deserves to be in jail. Most of addiction is what's driving your property crime, small crimes, but you're getting arrested over and over again and then they let you out. And so I think the collaboration now and working with the LEADS program, which is law enforcement diversion program, we have now the ability to send people to treatment, help them with if they're having a housing issue, like what's driving the addiction. Let's address that first. Is it you can't hold down the job because of the addiction, so let's get you some help with the addiction. Let's get you connected with Workforce Solutions. Let's get you connected with Nest and Taos, or if you need housing. And let's try and get you back on your feet so that the recidivism doesn't come back, so that your addiction's getting treated, right? Your housing issues getting addressed, and now we're finding you a job to get you back on your feet. And so those type of things are available. I don't know if across the state, I think with the mental health crisis, the state last year gave a ton of money to try and start addressing the mental health crisis that we have, which it's great, but I don't know, by the time the infrastructure is built, I mean, are we going to have a mental health hospital in Taos? I don't know. But Espanola is close, and I know they're getting a facility. Are we going to have access to that? And quite frankly, if there's a bed available, how would anybody know where to find it? If there's no database saying, hey, we just had 3 beds available here in Albuquerque for treatment come up, how would anybody in Cuesta or Red River or even Peñasco know that those beds are available?
No, I would say that would be on their that would be dependent on their own marketing efforts.
Yeah, so getting, and we're going in the right direction. We are. It's just going to take some time for, like I said, the infrastructure and the system to be built. And I think we're going to make some headway. Right now, we don't really have a facility for somebody experiencing a mental health crisis. We got to take them to Holy Cross, and we're overwhelming them. They only have 1 or 2 beds available, and we just take them to the ER, right? We place a 7-day hold on them, and then they get transported from the hospital to a facility somewhere in Albuquerque as far as Las Cruces. And it's to the point where they're even flying people out because we don't, that's the extent that it's gotten to. So, I think there's I'm hopeful. I really am that we're going to see some progress there in the next couple of years in that neighborhood.
And would you say that the best sheriffs make connections with people in the medical field too?
Well, that's just it. I think law enforcement in general, when you're policing a rural community or a county, it's in your best interest to have these bridges with the hospital, with the ER staff, with counselors, with the faith-based community. There's a lot of times, you come across somebody that, they're doing the best they can, but food is hard for them to get. Just working 2 or 3 jobs just to afford their rent. Food stability is. I mean, if you've ever gone to St. James and seen the line of cars there, you know, it's good to have those connections. That way, you come across a family that, hey, you know, they might need a little bit of help. Well, why don't you go and talk here in Cuesta with our food pantry? You know, they give away supplemental food all the time, and just connect with them or making those connections. So, yeah, it's important, and it really comes down to community policing at its core. That's what it is being out, being proactive, being in the community that you're patrolling, getting to know the neighborhood, the business owners, and making those connections. Because when they need help, they're going to come to you and say, "Hey, look, I have this problem. How do you think we could fix it?" You know, and then you have the resources to say, "Well, is it a food issue? Is it a housing issue? You know, what is it that we can try and funnel some resources to help you? And if I don't know, I'll put you in touch with somebody that does." You know, that kind of thing, and it goes a long way.
How often does Taos County Sheriff's Department collaborate with, let's say, Reba Sheriff's Department? If there's some kind of incident on the border,
Yeah, I
does that
think
happen a lot?
yeah, I think it's in your best interest to cooperate with outside agencies. They don't, you know, like Reba, your adjacent counties to work with the sheriffs, and because let's just say what the facts are. Everybody's manpower. We're not. You're not always going to be fully staffed. And so when a crisis comes, hey, you can call the neighboring sheriff and say, "Hey, can you send me some help? I got a wildfire going on. I need help blocking roads," or whatever the case may be. And they'll always say yes. You know, it's important to build those bridges.
Have you ever, in your time with the Sheriff's Department, has there ever been an incident where you've had to collaborate with the Costilla County Sheriff in Colorado?
Yeah. I mean, there was a excellent case. We were having a lot of burglaries and property crimes here, but it wasn't just here. It was the entire Enchanted Circle and all the way into San Luis, and they were having a rash of things going on, and working together, we were able to pinpoint where, well, the sheriff out there pinpointed where a lot of the stolen property might be. So he reached out and was able to work with the sheriff's office, and we went up and got sworn in as deputies there, and were able to effect a search warrant where a lot of stolen property was recovered.
In cases like that, do you often have to cooperate with the feds also, since it's across state lines?
No,
Usually,
I don't think we did in that case. But let me tell you what is working with juvenile crime and also with adults working with the feds, and that's on the prosecution side of the house. Sometimes our sentencing is a lot weaker than the federal sentencing guidelines. So let's just say you come across a felon in possession of a firearm. If the feds take it, it's an automatic 10 years. I mean, and the feds will take those cases all day long. On the state side, and has, you know, I don't mean no disrespect to the prosecutors or the district attorney's office or anything like that. That's just kind of another tool that's available to law enforcement that says, hey, if you have a crime that you want us to look at on the federal side, then bring it and we'll review it, and then we can take it forward. And that's been working for Las Cruces PD down there with some of the juvenile crimes. So if it's not working on the state side and you're a violent criminal, then let's look at the federal side and see if they'll take the case. So, you know, there's some avenues that you could work for your most violent and repetitive criminals.
Were you with the Sheriff's Department when they did that big that big case in Amalia?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Were you at on site there?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about that?
That was a tough case, it's probably one of the most rewarding cases to know that we got those children out of there. They were in a bad situation out there, and and the best part is we were able to get it done without a shot being fired, and nobody got hurt. And at the end of the day, that's about the best outcome you could hope for.
With all this talk of juveniles, I think I should mention your other job with the school board.
Yeah,
I think you've been with them as long as I've been employed here.
Yeah, I just finished I got elected my first term and done 4 years, and I just got reelected again for another 4. And it's a challenge. I really enjoy. I've been learning quite a bit in my last 4 years about how the schools operate, and it's a lot different than one might think. And my first year on the board, I was elected president by the fellow board members, and I stayed the president my first 4 years, and I got reelected president again. And it has challenges too, just like everything else. But I think working collectively with the board to make the best decisions that we can for the future of our kids, that's most important, and that's been really rewarding. I know other board members, boards, they get paid when they get elected to the board. Our board is all volunteer. We don't get a dime of money. We decided, and it was prior before me, that we shouldn't be collecting any kind of money. It should go to the kids and keep it in the classroom. So I'm really proud of that, and we're able to pass the SB 9, which is funding for maintenance and that kind of thing for the district this last election. And also we passed a GEO bond, which I'm really proud of, that we were able to get through, which is going to allow us to build new schools. And I think that's been huge for us.
How does your skills in law enforcement translate to school administration?
Working with budget, the Marshal and Red River, I don't just have the Marshal's office, I also oversee dispatch operations. So managing those budgets have given me a lot of experience. But I will say the school budget is so much different, just because the way it's still a line item budget, but the codes are different, and by the time you can figure out the codes on where everything is, it takes a lot of time so that you can compare apples to apples, and that's been interesting for me to learn. But I would say for New Mexico is first in crime and last in education, I've gotten to see both sides of it. And I see the challenges from the law enforcement side and how it correlates to home life in a rural school district. Because, you see these families and you see kids and you think, man, all they need is a chance. They're great kids. They just need one little chance, something to give them some motivation to go in the right path. And for some of them, the school is the only place they're going to get their hot meal for the day. And like I talked earlier about, food being an issue in families. And so you get to see it on both sides. And my hope is that we can turn things around, at least within our district, of what we can control to give kids a better outcome. And I think we're going in the right path. We've got a good foundation set, and now it's just a matter about building. And I think it's going to take some time for us to see the fruit from the seeds that we're planting right now. But I wholeheartedly believe that we're going to start seeing some good changes here in the future.
Good changes like what?
As far as their outcome, as far as are they career ready? Are they military ready? Can they pass? Can they take the ASVAB test and fare well in that? Our SAT scores got to go up. College ready, or are they, like I said, some careers is it in the trades? Can they be successful in electrical, plumbing, HVAC? Now with some solar projects that are around, can we build bridges so that they're learning these skills so that they can go into a trade? Or hospitality, are they capable with our culinary program, say come out from that, say I want to open a restaurant in Cuesta? Are we giving them the skills that they're going to need to just do that, or secondary or trade school, so that they're successful there? Because what we found in some cases was they'll get into UNM or post-secondary school, but English and math, they have to take remedial. So they're already behind the curve. And then, so their first year is remedial classes versus starting out and moving forward right away. And then by their second year, then they decide, this probably isn't for me, and they drop. Those kind of things. So, you got to kind of look at it as in a more global sense. So, what are we, how excuse me, how are we preparing these children?
Why do you think there's been a decreasing interest in math and reading?
I don't think there's a decreasing interest. I really don't.
Maybe that was the wrong word.
Yeah, no, I think, and it's across the state in those two subjects. Reading, we saw some increase, but also we able to focus more in reading and your early learning education.
I asked because there was that report card with schools in Taos News that didn't look good.
No, it didn't look good for Cuesta schools at all. And I'll be open a book about that, and that's why I say we did see some increases where they saw some decreases, and now we showed a decrease. Which, matter of fact, we have a board meeting tonight, and I'm sure some of these questions are going to come up. But I think we just need to have some support. If we need reading coaches to come and help our kids with reading, that's what we did before. I think math is going to be the same way. And I honestly think some of it is when COVID came, the distance learning and all that. That was more of a disservice to our kids than anything than keeping them in school, at least in my opinion. But we have learning loss, and we know it. It's how are we going to bridge that? So, moving forward, we look at numbers, and then we say, okay, well, we had what was it? What caused this? Kind of almost do like a root cause analysis of the entirety of it, and say, okay, well, what can we do to fix it now, so that we don't see that big of a drop in math and reading? So it's a little more complex than just looking at what were the students, how many were absent when we did state testing, and that kind of thing. Did they come prepared to take the test, or did they just interest for 10 minutes and then started pressing, just whizzing through it, those kind of things. Like, are we taking that test in the morning when people are fresh, or did we take it in the afternoon where they might have been a little more tired? Those kind of things all come into play into all that. So, we gotta reset and see what we can do better. No doubt. It's only 5:30. I was thinking I was getting close to 6 because I ought to be over there.
Getting back to law enforcement. Thinking we're no more questions.
No, I'll tell you just kind of in closing. Um, I bring a wealth of knowledge and leadership ability. If I didn't think that I could step up to this challenge, I probably wouldn't. But I know what I'm capable of, and I can tell you this: this campaign is not about me. It's not that I could do this, I could do that. It'll never be about that. It's about we, our community. How can we make things better? How can we make your place a better city, safer place to live? How do we work together? Are we working with our faith-based community? Are we working with our animal rescue community? That's a huge issue. Um, you know, are we building walls or are we building bridges?
Oh, what about animal control?
That's what I'm getting at. I know there's no contract with Stray Hearts right now, but how can we work together so that we're supporting the rescues through our animal control side of the house with the sheriff's office? Building those, like I said, I don't want to be the guy that builds walls. I want to be the one that builds bridges, and that's the only way I think that we can move this community forward. There's great people that work at the sheriff's office right now. You'll never hear me disrespect them or anything they do because I've been there and I know the hard work that they put in. I just think we can work better with not just our law enforcement partners. I think having quarterly meetings with all the chiefs and department heads coming together and meeting and saying, hey, what resources do you have that I could use, or what resources do I have that maybe you could use to help start solving some of these crimes? Or what's going on in your neighborhood, that's really affecting what's driving your property crime there? How are we working with our business owners? Which, you got to have those connections. How, it's building public trust. At the end of the day, that's where you start and that's where you end, by being a part of your community. And when I talk about being part of the community, I'm not talking about just my deputies or my officers going out to events. I'm talking about me too, because how can you be a leader if you're not out there and you're not meeting with all these folks? So that's where you get the buy-in. That's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. You've got to be able to be out there, and I think that's where I will stand on this and say, I want to build bridges. I don't want to build walls.
I did have one question about Red River being a tourist town. Is there a lot of tension between the snowbirds and locals all year round?
No, it's a pretty unique community in that sense, because you have your local population, which between 400-500, and then you could see it balloon to 10, 15, 20,000 over a weekend or a week, and then 200,000 visitors over the winter time or in the summertime. So it gels pretty good, but it can be a quiet place, but the volume of people that you police there is huge sometimes. And then there's times like give this week where we don't got no snow and we don't have a ton of visitors on a Tuesday afternoon. You can drive up and down the street and look around and say, man, where did everybody go? But it's been a great place to work, and a lot of what I'm talking about your community policing is just that. It's getting out there and visiting with your store owners, your faith-based community. What can we do to help each other, and it works. I can honestly say that 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 strategy works.
There's a few plans to more connect, to better connect Questa and Red River. Like, for example, that nature trail they want to build.
Yeah.
There's a bike trail.
No, I think it's great.
It's
I think anytime the two communities come together for the greater good is always going to be great, because I mean, you have your shop owners and then you have your workforce, and you have 400 people living in Red River, but you probably have another 100 or better drive up that hill every morning to go to work in these shops and restaurants and in the ski area, So, and they come from here, from Cuesta, from Cerro, from all the way from Manya. They make the drive every day to go work up there. So that's like what I said earlier when we started this. We are all one community, whether you're Amaya, whether you're Peñasco, whether you're Arroyo Seco, Chamizal, or you Los Cordovas, Ranchos, or Taos. We're all in this together.
well, I definitely want to see more. Like, I think my biggest concern is more. I want to see more commerce flow between, like, especially between River and Cuesta. I want to see. I would like to see Cuesta get some of that, some overflow on the.
Yeah, I think we all would. Yeah, no doubt. And I think there's huge opportunities given our proximity, and then what we have is our most precious resources are our national forest and the national monument that is in our backyard. How do people from Cuesta to get those opportunities to open a business where you can do side-by-side tours up Bristol Canyon? I mean, we're close. We're just as close as Red River. There's huge opportunity in recreation, and how do we build on that?
But I also want to. There's also a counterbalance to that. Like, the more people that come here, the more businesses that come here, the more activity that is here. There's also thinking, like, probabilistically, there's also going to be more crime with that, right? Like, is there a balancing act?
You know what? With Red River, what I've noticed up there is that people that come, they come on vacation. They don't come to go to jail. They're here to have a good time, and we rarely have issues. I mean, that's not to say that we don't get them from time to time, but with that tourist population, nobody goes on vacation with the idea they want to go to jail too. So, I think for the village of Cuesta, I think if we focus more, just my opinion, perhaps the community center would be huge for us here. I think that would be great. I think the skate park is a great idea, stuff for kids to do outside of school, because if school's closed, they have the evenings during the summertime, and they can go to the youth center and hang out there, or play basketball, or even come down to the Molly Cork field and play baseball down there. I think there's some infrastructure that's already there. That's why I would always advocate for our schools to keep our doors open best as we can, so that if kids want to come and play ball on our basketball court outside, why not?
Is there a back road that leads from the high school to the all the way to Mollycourt Field?
I don't think so. I think you got to come across through Cabresto and then Kiowa and then head down that way.
I'm just thinking about ways to. This Mollycourt Field's kind of out of the way. Like, unless you're not.
It is, but I think it's the closest thing we have to a little league baseball field. I wish maybe we could partner with the village and the school and try and renovate that so that our little guys can have a baseball field.
I always thought if you could connect, like, if you made a walkway from the high school to the library, that'd be great.
There was some talk about it, but you have to cross the properties that don't belong to the district or to the village. So getting getting that permission from the landowners, some might say, yeah, sure. Other one might say, no, I don't want that liability. What if that kid falls in the ditch and gets hurt or trips on something? And am I going to be responsible? There's all those things to consider. Or they didn't close the gate and now my cows got out and they got run over. Those. There's a lot to consider. I think they're great ideas. I think sometimes some of those liabilities are what hinder progress. For sure.
That's it. I think it's all of it.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I started my public safety career here in Cuesta. I was a volunteer fireman, and I did that for close to 18 years. And through that, I was able to get my EMT license. We did first responder because we didn't have an ambulance, so we did that class first. Then we started getting everything together with Chief Ortega, I believe, to get the ambulance functioning, and so we had to become EMTs to be able to support it. And then we got our license to. It was we weren't a transport, but we could intercept with the EMS from Taos to come up. So we did that, and then eventually we were able to get our full license from PRC for transport, and we had EMTs, and I did that, and all that's was all volunteer as well. So I think when I left the fire department, I was a lieutenant and then an assistant chief when I finished up with the volunteers.
Does Cuesta have truant officers?
No.
I remember that was in high school. Taos had one.
We have an armed security officer, but I don't think that we have a truant officer.
Well, I think that's it.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. And
Thank you for talking.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we get together again.
Oh, one more. Do you know if Steve Mayer is running for re-election?
Yeah, I believe he is running.
Is.
Yeah. He's the incumbent running.
So I guess my final question: Why do you think people should vote for you over him?
I think if people want change, I'm going to be that person. I think if they're fine and happy with what they have, then of course vote for Steve. But I'm going to tell you, I would want you to vote for me, because I think, that's what I'm focused on is winning this election. So I won't never talk bad about him or anything like that, or put down that department or the people that work there, because at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters in blue, and whether your uniform is brown or tan like mine, or blue like Cuesta, or black like State Police, we're all in this together, man. And that's where it needs to be. But you can get me on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and it's Jason Rael for Sheriff 2026. You can find me on that. Please like and follow. We have Instagram now and TikTok coming up. And we'll have our, if you want to make a donation, you can reach out to us on any one of those platforms, and we'll get together. And we got some yard signs coming and some window decals on the way. We got some shirts and caps, those kind of.
Now, are you running your TikTok page, or is your daughter?
No, my daughter's not. No. I have a volunteer that's helping with the campaign to do the TikTok stuff. So, and Instagram too, because I wasn't too familiar with all that.
I was making
making
a joke about it.
Oh yeah, no, she would probably do a great job. I'll tell you that. I haven't recorded a single TikTok myself, but I mean it's another platform to get your name out there. So It's really popular, so we're going to give it a shot. So we'll have some videos coming out on that. We are working on a video right now. It's getting edited that we can push out to on all the platforms. I just sent out a message on Facebook. It's got 2,000 views so far, and so yeah, we're gaining steam and pushing
You're making
forward.
happy with that.
Yeah,
Some photography work.
yeah. I mean, I'm always open to anybody that wants to help to see this campaign succeed. So yeah, that would be great.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Let's see if there's good questions online. You can watch them, though. Go vote. Go vote.